What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Start, Build, Grow Show. Today we have an awesome episode, and I have a very special guest. We are going to get back to our roots of what this show is all about on sharing the entrepreneurial journey in the roofing space. So we're going to share an awesome story with my man Matt here in just a moment. Stay tuned. All right, my dude, we've known each other a few years now, man. My brother from a different part of the country, incredible human being that's really pressing hard to build a great business and, find great balance in the family and all the things. We're going to press in, but Matthew, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us. Mr. Matthew Gurney. What's up, bro?
Yeah, man. Pleasure, honor, really. It's been it's a good 2 years now that we met here in Indianapolis. Actually had a chance to sit down and eat some lunch together and break bread, and really encouraged me, honestly, man. Just your journey especially kind of coincides with what I've faced as an entrepreneur, especially a young entrepreneur.
I love it, man.
It was a quick friendship, man, just right off the bat. So appreciate you.
Well, it's one of those things, right? You meet somebody and you just instantly, man, something about that dude. Let's connect and let's press in and kind of grow together. So that's awesome, man. And you've shared, obviously, I've learned a lot about you and your story. But let's press into that a little bit. How did you get into roofing? What did you do before, and how'd you get started?
So, pretty common thread. Anybody that's gotten into the roofing industry did it by accident, unless like their parents owned a roofing company or something like that. But man, I started going to a Bible college is what happened. And the president of that Bible college just so happened to be a general contractor, and approached me one night after class. I was like, "Hey man, looking for another sales guy. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Sure." Needed a little bit extra income. Background previous to that, I had, helped out. I was an installer. So, I'd actually swung hammers and blocked shingles. They didn't let me swing hammers much, but mostly just the brute of the crew, hawking shingles. But he gave me an opportunity, brought me in, took me under his wing. And the guy's brilliant. He's a guru on the insurance side. Rode around with him for a few months. I mean, he was one of those just solopreneur kind of guy.
Yep.
It was him and I. That was our team. And then his wife and oldest daughter, I believe, did the finances on the backside. And so he drove me around for a few months, taught me the ins and outs of insurance restoration. That's what we did. Fast forward about 4 years, he went full time into evangelism, went on the road. Any sale that came in was essentially mine. And I ran everything from start to finish as a project manager with him. So I got to see literally the ins and outs of a roofing organization, from sales through production, which gave me a huge leg up whenever I decided to then launch my own company. Ended up around that same times whenever I launched In the Gutters, which is, another one of my businesses, and ran that for a few years, got married, had started having kiddos. Had a friend reach out, was like, "Hey, started a production company from some larger roofing companies here in the state of Indiana. I need somebody to come in and help me structure production, but also run it." And so took that opportunity. That was winter of end of 2020, going into 21. They ended up having some hardships throughout the winter, ended up letting me go. And during that time, I'd been praying, what am I supposed to do? Because I love this industry. Yeah. But I was under a non-compete with the general contractor I was with. And we were just outside of that non-compete. So, I started looking towards what am I supposed to do now? Applied to a large company here in the state. Somebody that's actually kind of in the mix of a lot of the people we know. Applied for a position there. Showed up to the interview, and before I walked into the building, I just prayed and I said, "Lord, if this isn't your will, take the peace away." And
close the door, right?
Yeah, I mean, make it clear because I'm not smart enough. And they offered me the job on the spot. Six figures, 401k, company truck, card, all of it. And instantaneously the piece left. And I knew it. And so I said, hey, I got to go talk to my wife, give me till the end of the day. And I'm driving home and I'm just praying. I said, God, show me, make it clear to me. What am I supposed to do? And instantaneously I get a phone call. And it's somebody said, hey, just got a referral. We had an insurance claim on our house. Insurance has given us a hard time. Somebody said to call you. Is there any way you could come out and check this out for me? I was like, okay. So went home February 1st, 2021, filed for my LLC, launched Watchman Roofing, and the rest is history, man.
So. I love that, man. I think there's a lot of things to kind of unpack there and a lot of similarities, right? So one thing I want to press into, and I think, you're a younger guy, but you're an old soul in a sense of it's just, I feel like this generation, and not to, take anything away, we tend to have this mindset of get it now, get it quick, fast track everything. And I want instant success. Right. And I think there's just something to be said about, there's a rite of passage for someone like us and putting in the hours and the days in the truck, following, learning, underneath someone else. Cause there's so much. Sure, you can hire the academy or hire all these things out there now. You can expedite your growth, right? Learn from others who've done this. But there's just something to be said about that hands-on experience, getting into the trenches and doing the work, right? And I kind of follow the same path where I got into construction way before I got into roofing. I wanted to learn how to build houses. So my first job was cleaning the job sites of houses, like, the construction crew was there framing and doing the drywall, the siding, all the things, the roofing, whatever else. And I'm just there, kind of my first ever day on working for a construction company. They say, go out, just take your truck and go out and clean that job site and take all the trash and go take it to the dump. I spent hours and hours and hours hucking old lumber, just throw it in there. That was my first go round. And I just stayed in the grind. I learned as much as I could each and every day. And I'd go back to my, my mentor, the owner of the company was a mentor of mine, just like yours. And I'd just ask him, hey, what else? Like, I did that. Go, let me give you something else. And I learned and learned and learned. Next thing you know, he was starting to give me more and more autonomy and give me more and more challenges and let me handle more and more and let me start to make decisions. And I worked my way up into becoming a superintendent and overseeing all of the construction. And reason why I tell that story is kind of crazy how God works, right? Is that house that I cleaned, that my very first day on the job that I cleaned that whole site, I bought that house from the owner a year and a half later. Right. And that was my very first investment.
That's pretty incredible.
Who'd have thought, right? Who'd have thought? So again, putting in your time to learn and grow, and just, there's something to be said about that. Right. And I think not as many of us, maybe there's some out there. If you're out there, if you're watching the YouTube, throw in the comments, like, where did you start? Did you start in the grind? Did you have a great mentor? Did you, let's talk about that. Talk about mentorship and kind of that rite of passage of learning for a couple of years under somebody else before you actually, decide to chase your entrepreneurial journey. So I think there's something definitely to press into there. And another one was, you turn down, 6-figure 401k, you turn down the comfort, right? Yeah. You had, here it is, the silver platter. Here's the job. Here's the whole deal. And you turn that down on faith and you bet on yourself.
Yeah. Keep in mind, man, like the part of that story, obviously, you knew I was married because I had to go talk to my wife, but I also had, a 1.5-year-old at home. And, I was in the gutters, was fairly successful. I mean, we were making 40, 50,000 a year, which was enough for us. Like that was plenty for us to get by. But it was, I was ready to really start my career, I guess. I didn't realize I was an entrepreneur until actually really launching Watchman. I just thought I was like creating work for myself. It was just something I did. I needed to make a paycheck. So
the accidental entrepreneur, right? A lot of us can relate to that.
Yeah, like, man, that's a massive topic to talk about.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I had that responsibility. So knowing that, it wasn't easy, but I knew what I had asked and it was answered. And so now I'm trusting, okay, God, what do you have? Like, is it just a run in the gutters? What is it? And then I get the phone call. And, you know, for me now though, because there's always going to be hardship, especially in business, especially as an entrepreneur. But I can walk in confidence because I know this is God's will.
Yeah.
I had that prayer answered, so now I'm
Yeah.
walking, and even whenever there's hardship in the business, I can just trust.
Yeah. Man, that's powerful stuff right there, man. And when it comes to, that journey, I want to press in a little bit on the topic you just kind of alluded to. It's, a lot of us start a business by default. Someone calls us and said, oh, okay, cool, I'm going to go do the roof, or, just an opportunity presents itself. So we just end up as a solopreneur. We end up, kind of creating a job for ourselves. But I think there's a big difference, and there's a transition in order to create a career and build something that's successful, that builds wealth for ourselves, that builds value and creates value for the business. We have to transition from, being just a hustler trying to make a dollar and put food on our table to becoming an entrepreneur, and ultimately making even that shift to becoming a CEO. What are some takeaways, or what are some things that you learned from going from just, I'm hustling, just trying to put food on my table, to, becoming an entrepreneur? What's your, I guess, definition of that?
Yeah, so I thought I had it figured out in business. In the gutters was a well-oiled machine. We were running top notch. I had some guys working for me. We were, had our good reviews and all those things, and then, got into the roofing space, and it was something I felt comfortable with, on the sales side, but actually running it as a business owner operator, that's different, man. And our first year, I essentially ran it by myself. I ran production through, like, sales, production, all of it, all the things that I was doing for the other general contractor. And that was easy for me because I knew that. Mm-hmm. I knew that structure. And it wasn't until, ago, whenever we started to scale and actually started to structure this out, like, we want to do this for real and not just be your chuck in a truck, which is, why I started the company anyways, because there's a lot of those in the demographic I'm at, the market I'm at. And I wanted to be more than that. I wanted the front end staff, the back end staff. I wanted people in seats doing all of the jobs that I was trying to do by myself. But it took me really until winter of last year. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. That was pretty evident from the start. But it took me until winter of last year. And this is a discussion you and I had last winter, getting ready to go into Breckenridge and the summit. And we had that conversation. I made the phone call, like, hey, man, like, this isn't easy, because, I started this with the thought of, I'm going to pave my own way. I'm going to create something because I'm a visionary. That's the way my mind works. I love to create. I love to scale. But now you have responsibility. It's no longer just responsibility to your clients and your suppliers. It's now responsibility to the families that are in your organization. And that was the burden for me, to make me realize, like, hey, like, this is no longer, like, you got to do it, and you got to do it well, and you got to do it right. Because for us, like, we had young families. Like, at the time, I think I was the oldest person in our organization. I'm 32. We had a lot of young families, like newborn children in these families. And, not to say pressure, but it was to make sure we were running efficiently, and people were making paychecks, and they were getting paid well to take care of their families. So I would say, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, no, finish your thought there, because go ahead.
I would say as a CEO specifically, we're not responsible for other people doing their job. That's their responsibility. Whenever you hire them in, it is their responsibility to do their job. But as a CEO or an owner, your responsibility is to give them a place that they can come in and do that job and do it well and get paid well. And if you're not marketing and branding yourself well and your company well, if you're not doing the things that are necessary to give your company kind of the leg up or take over market share, it makes things really difficult for the people that have entrusted you for their livelihood.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, just the process, and you nailed it, the sum that up, the process of shifting from a solopreneur or, the hustler, just trying to make a paycheck to, a CEO is responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. Is understanding the responsibility that you have as a leader, as a CEO of an organization, or as an entrepreneur. You now have other people's livelihood, their families that are now responsible, that you're now responsible for based on the decisions you make. Like, their livelihood is affected by the decisions that you make each and every day. And I think if we can make that mental transition to own that, that's the key to making a shift from solopreneur to CEO to entrepreneur, and to understand that responsibility is. I think it's huge.
I think that's the misconception too for people outside of, our position. They see it as, we've created this business and, maybe see the Facebook post of our family and, the trips and some of the downtime that we get. And, if we're not careful, kind of a facade that we put on, as entrepreneurs, it is a beautiful thing, man. Like, the lifestyle, like you're creating that lifestyle for yourself. You're not relying on us to do it. And for somebody like you and I, like, that's exactly why we got into this. Like, we wanted to create our own time. But the misconception is, the weight as an owner. People think that they're just going to go in and they're going to start this business and it's going to be a multi-billion dollar business and have all these employees under them. But if you have a conscience whatsoever, you're going to be looking down at your, management positions and who they're managing, and, even down to this, the last hire in the company, and realize, like, this is a home that's being taken care of right now from something that you created. That's huge responsibility, man.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And you said the weight, right? And I don't know if we talk about that enough. I mean, we see, you can't go on social media without seeing some roofer posting a vacation they're having, or a new car they're buying, or a new truck, and all those things are great, right? They're bragging about this nice, massive 100-square roof that I'm doing. All over. You cannot go to social media without seeing that if you're in the roofing space, right? With me, it's like everything's roofing, but what they're not posting about is, like, the weight and the pressure of, hey, I got to go collect X amount of money in order to make payroll, in order to make sure that there's food on these people's tables. I got supplier bills, I got tax bills, I got, my workers' comp audit coming up. Like, there's an immense amount of pressure that comes along with that. And I think people they see the facade, and by all means, the freedom is great. I took an amazing vacation this year. I took my kids to Disney and to Universal Studios, and we do some amazing things. I'm so grateful and so blessed. But we'll come, and that's only part of it, though. Like, you got to work for that. Like, you enjoy both, right? Because you're learning a lot through the pressure, right? They say pressure makes diamonds, but I don't know if that's even true. Like, pressure can break a person pretty quick and easily, right? But the working through that pressure, that's where we learn. That's where we grow. That's where we hone our skills as leaders, as executives, and how to, really build and grow other people. So we don't talk enough about the immense pressure, the sleepless nights. It's like, you see the facade and what people present, but we don't see the underneath, where it is hard. In any world of entrepreneurship, no matter what business you have, it's extremely hard. I see, businesses great little businesses and they go under for whatever reason, expenses, or it breaks my heart every time I see that. And you see it all too often. And I think we don't talk about that enough, but there's an incredible amount of pressure. And how do we work through that? How do you work through the pressure, when those nights come where you're like, man, why am I doing this? What kind of tools do you use to work through that?
Man, so I am people oriented. I'm not actually hardly at all task oriented. I'm people oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's first thought is, it goes back to my people. What is the best decision for them? Say something happens, a customer's distraught, something's escalated to me, to where now like I have to diffuse something. We love our customers. This doesn't happen often, but it's definitely one of those things that do happen. And for me, obviously I want to diffuse. And the reason I mention this is because this is some of the pressure that I feel is because I want a good name. I continue that 5-star reputation. I want to continue our Better Business Bureau reputation. So whenever things escalate, I know a customer is now, disgruntled or something's happened. But my first thought always is, how can I defend my people? So whenever that happens, my thought is, how can I de-escalate this? But how can I, at the same time, my people know for certain that I'm going to defend them? I'm going to stand on that hill unless they've done something wrong. Now, granted, but I'm going to stand on that hill, and I'm going to defend them. Secondly, man, we think so much in the future of things that we just cannot this day solve. And I'm guilty of that myself. And it's my wife typically that has to remind me, like, hey, Matthew, like, for one, is this going to matter 3 months from now? But what can you today do that is right to either help mitigate this, solve this, stop worrying about what could potentially happen? Because that's another thing that I concern myself with is, what are the potentials? I'm looking for future roadblocks or future road humps, whatever. And if I'm not careful, that's where my mind goes, and that's where the anxiety comes. Are we going to have AR to be able to make payroll? Are we going to have AR at the end of the quarter to be able to pay our payroll taxes? Are we going to be able to pay our audit? Those are all things we concern ourselves with. But if I'm not careful, like, I'll start concerning myself with that in January.
Well, then it becomes debilitating, right? And it then you're scared to make moves and take risks or press because you're so worried about something you can't control, something you can't solve right here, right now.
Yeah. So I guess the answer to that is I concern myself with here now. Like, what is the next right step for me? What is the next right thing to put us in a better position? And that helps with clarity for sure and decision making.
Yeah. I love that. And I believe in that too, where it's control the controllables. There's only so many things I can control, and there's only so much time in every day. There's only so many things I can do in each day. And if I just focus on prioritizing and executing today and focus on my list today and get through that list today, tomorrow will come. As even the Bible says, like,
sufficient is the evil.
Tomorrow will worry about itself, right? Yeah. So focus on today. And there's a certain part of us that we do want to have vision and be thinking about the future, but we can't let that consume us. You got to find that balance of, one, I like to look backwards to kind of get takeaways of where I've came from, just be grateful from where I came from, look forward to think about, okay, the vision, this is what is capable, what we can do. But when I operate, it's in today. Like, what can I control today? And I think that mindset, it seems like a simple concept, but I think it helps take a lot of the pressure off. Look back and find things to be grateful for. Look forward to get excited about what the potential is, but operate in the here and the now and only control the controllables that you can handle each and every day.
Yeah, I mean, not to be morbid, but losing my dad was a huge one for me on that one, because, you know, seeing how, and I already knew how fleeting life was.
Yeah.
You know, but actually seeing somebody that close that impacted me in that way, to realize, like, truly, not to be cliche, but tomorrow is not guaranteed. You know, boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day might bring forth. You know, and that helps me as well. Because, you know, if I am constantly concerning myself over that, like, the people that matter most often are the ones that get neglected. If I'm constantly thinking about my business, it's my wife and my children that get neglected. You know, if I'm constantly thinking about, you know, are we going to make sales? Are we going to do whatever? It's no longer am I building and securing a relationship with my sales team. Because now all I'm doing is push instead of saying, hey, like, how's your home life? Hey, you know, how's the kids? Those types of things. It just, as a leader, man, if you're not careful, it'll hurt even your leadership skills.
Yep. I think that's super important. I mean, you can look at companies that are maybe struggling or having a lot of turnover issues, or maybe not performing at their best, you know, capacity. And you start diving into the people, the environment of the team. And oftentimes you'll kind of uncover if somebody is having a challenge outside of work, owner, employee, salesperson, whatever it is, they're not going to perform their best at work.
Yeah.
And
it rolls
us
down
as leaders, we have a tendency to kind of ignore those things and just focus on work. But if we not only employ like a strategy to try to chase that, you know, the elusive balance in our own lives, that'll permeate within our organization. Yeah. And if we're coaching and mentoring and looking at our job as leaders as more like a coach or a mentor for our team, we can help uncover and help others develop as people and as leaders as well. Guess what? The business gets better, right? I believe, you know, as a leader, my job is to develop other leaders that then develop other leaders. And if we have this mindset of growing leaders all the way down to the bottom of the business, everybody becomes a leader. We all get better, but that doesn't happen unless we have a focus on our personal lives and trying to be the best we can outside of work. So that's something that's, I think, a huge takeaway.
Yeah.
JobNimbus is a fully customizable back office solution.
Track leads, jobs, tasks from one easy-to-use software.
And with the largest ecosystem of integrated partners, if we don't do it, we have a friend who does.
Learn how the #1 back office system in roofing
can help you be efficient, be organized, be professional, and be profitable.
Roofers, you want at least 5 solid lead gen tactics building chemistry. Let's say you have door knocking, referral systems, job site branding, and you add in aggressive SEO, paid ads, and boom! Smells like more leads. Hookagency.com.
Honor of the late and great Nick Harris.
Just took on whatever I threw at her and just took on what. Welcome to the show. Give just a minute.
So let's shift gears a little bit, and then we can kind of start to, you know, find the landing here. But, you know, let's talk about the business. You know, let's talk about where, you know, you've been doing this a few years, and it definitely was a grind to get the thing started. You know, where are you guys at now, and what are some of the key kind of takeaways that you've learned over the last couple of years?
Yeah, man. So, like I said, year one was me. It was running everything myself, and I got burnt out. We had some hiccups early on that, not to get into that story because it'll take, you know, another hour, but had some hiccups early on that I considered just shutting the doors. Like, am I even cut out for this? And but I loved it. I mean, this is one of those industries, once you get in it, if you're any good at it whatsoever, it's kind of like playing golf. You know, like you get that one good hole and you hate it, but you get that one good hole and you're going back and playing golf. You're going by all
that one good shot, and you just keep chasing that shot again. Right?
Yeah. So that's the roofing industry. I mean, I've watched it. I've watched it kind of suck guys in, and it's not a bad thing. Like, man, this is one of those industries that you can make 6 figures and not even have a degree. Like, it's unheard of. It's unheard of. You know, there isn't necessarily formal training for it either. Like, you know, obviously inside of an organization that is well oiled, they're going to train you. But like, dude, like, where else do you hear somebody making the kind of living that you can make in the roofing
without
industry?
a 10-year degree or a 7-year degree, right?
Yeah, like it's up there with doctors and lawyers. A really good sales guy. Yeah. But so I basically was burning out, man, and I was like, you know, I'm either going to scale this or I'm going to shut the doors, and that, you know, was the same time that my dad passed away, and kind of opened up my eyes. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this for real if I'm gonna do it. And that's whenever I hired my GM. I brought him in as a sales guy, and rolled everything off to him, just because at that time I was trying to just make it through. But rolled it off onto him. He started helping me implement some things. And then I ended up coming back into the sales side, put him into production. So now we had sales and production. We thought we were hot shots. So sales and production, we were rolling. But it was June 2 years ago that I realized, like, we got to put people in seats here. You know, this is still too much for two guys if we actually want to scale this back 500, 750,000, $1 million. You know, we want to actually scale this.
Yeah.
And so I started bringing in people I knew is what I did.
Oh, okay.
People that I trusted, people I knew, people that were family and friends. Because again, it's something I prayed about. Like, I want to provide for my friends and family a place to come in. So we brought them in, and this industry will chew people up and spit them out too. You know, it'll draw, but it'll chew people up and spit them out. And it's kind of what happened, just on like a residual cycle. You know, at one time in our organization, we had 100% retention rate, and that's, you know, unheard of in a small company in, you know, their second year. And then spring hit, and bam, turnover. Literally everybody except for my GM and my CFO and myself and my wife. But it helped with that learning curve. You know, it was not necessarily a hardship on us, but it thinned us out to where we knew now what we needed to hire in. It wasn't just bringing people in to fill seats now. Now, how does this position run, and what's necessary to do that, and what qualifications am I looking for now? And it helped a ton, because it wasn't, I mean, when was it, man? It was March, April, maybe this year that I joined TRA. Yeah. You know, we were running this before even having TRA and all your guys' platform and your tools and your education and things like that. So I was kind of winging it, just trying to figure it out. But
like a lot of us do.
It was a school of hard knocks, man. And that's what it was. And we were figuring it out, and got it to a place now to where, I mean, we're efficient. We've taken over a ton of market. I mean, people know us now. We built a brand and we built a name in our market. And,
that's awesome.
You know, future wise, I guess, is kind of what we've discussed is, I want to get into, you know, the farther reaches of our territories. And the goal by year 5 is 5 locations. So that is this winter, because our centralized location, we're efficient now, we're running, we're hitting our goals and our markers, is now to start looking, where's that next location going to be? Yeah.
And that's natural progression, right? And that's your journey. And thanks for the plug, because that's what we're passionate about, trying to provide tools to help you execute. You're the one doing the work, though. You know, it's like, you know, we can't take any credit, but it's, if we can help expedite the journey and walk alongside somebody to see them be successful, it's incredible. So thank you for sharing that. So as we kind of start to kind of wind this thing, man, along your journey, within, as an entrepreneur, working your way to kind of become a CEO, become a, leader of your organization. I always, as you've probably heard on the show, now it's my chance to put you on the spot. What is that golden nugget? That imagine someone's listening to this, someone's watching this, that is just getting their journey going and just kind of, trying to walk along in your footsteps, trying to kind of grow and build something, roofing or non-roofing. What would be the one, piece of advice that you'd give them? Yeah.
Well, mine's pretty simple, man, and maybe complex at the same time, because I'm a believer. I'm a believer in Jesus. I'm a believer in what God's word says. I'm a believer in creation. So there is a persona, I guess, of entrepreneurs that if we're not careful, we think that we're self-made. You hear that phrase that, I'm self-made. My parents didn't hand me anything. I did this all myself, sweat, blood, and tears. I don't believe that. I was gifted with an intellect and a desire and abilities and put in the freest country in the world and, given opportunity, unlike most people. To either do what I was called to do, fumble the ball. And by the grace of God, man, I was able to do not only the thing that I was called to do, but now the thing that I absolutely love to do. So to say self-made, no. But my nugget for people is to lean into what you were created to do. You were given gifts and attributes and personalities unlike anybody else in the entire world, solely for you to do what you were called to do.
Man, I love that. That's powerful, man. So many of us can go a long time in our journey and not ever realize that and not understand, if we're not operating within our superpower, our God-given gifts and abilities, it's really hard to find, true happiness and really find out who we are and reach our full potential. So thank you for that, man. That was awesome. For those of you listening, hey, thank you so much for joining us. I love, kind of getting back when we have the opportunity to interview great people and you can kind of learn from their stories. Feel free to reach out and connect with Matthew on the social medias, the Facebooks of the world and whatnot. And same thing with myself. If you want to connect. If you like the show, if you got any comments or questions, feel free. Please leave us a comment. Make sure to click that like button, click that subscribe button. We have over 300 videos on this channel and a ton of information like this. There's so many nuggets you can get from just following and connecting with us. And if you're interested in checking out, we have a book called Start It, Build It, Grow It. That's what the whole this whole podcast started from, was the book Start It, Build It, Grow It, The Contractor's Guide to Success. So feel free to check that out on Amazon. You can get a copy of that if you haven't already. And make sure to like, subscribe, connect with us. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to learn more and help you grow as a leader, because as leaders grow, so do the organizations and so do the families and the people that are affected by those companies. So thank you so much for joining us. Matthew, thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for being on the show. Take care, everybody. God bless.